Hello friends, how are you all? Welcome to our CSS training session. Today we are going to talk about some basic text properties in CSS that will make your web page even more beautiful. Let's start today's session. First of all, let's talk about font properties. With this, you can set the font style, size, and alignment of your text. The first property we will look at is the font family property. This allows you to specify the font style for your text. If the first font is specified is not available on the user system, the browser will use the next font in the list. Let's see with this an example. I have opened my code editor here. Now, as you can see, I have used the font family Arial and sans serif. So the text appearing inside the div will use Arial if it's available on the system. If I remove Arial and leave only sans serif, see how the font changes. It now uses the default sans serif font. If I remove both fonts, you will see that the text will revert to the browser's default font. This is how the font changes when you modify the font family by changing the font family or keeping it as sans serif. You can control the appearance of the text. Now let's talk about the font size property. With this property, you can set the size of the text. You can use units like pixels, EMS, or percentage to make your text bigger or smaller. Let's see this with an example. Currently, my font is the default size. As you can see, now if I change the font size and set it to 24 pixels, you will notice that the text become larger. As you can see, my font has become bigger. If I want to keep it at certain size in pixels, I can set it accordingly. Now let's talk about font weight. You can make your text bold using this property. You can use like normal or bold, or you can also use numeric values such as 400 or 700 to set the font weight. For example, right now the font weight is set to normal. If I change it to bold, you will notice the text becomes bolder. Similarly, you can use numeric values to adjust the weight. For instance, setting it to 600 makes the text slightly bolder. And if I set to 700, it will be even bolder. Let me also show you what happens when I set it to font weight to 900, it appears even bolder. Finally, I set the weight to 400, the text will return to normal weight. Let's talk about font style. Using the style property, you can set the text or normal italic italic styles are usually used to highlighted important things or add to emphasis. Let's see an example. I will simply use the font style property here. I can set it to normal or italic depending on the requirement. Now let's talk about the font variant property. This property is a bit fancy. It converts text into small caps or all caps. Let's useful when you want to add variation to your text. Let me demonstrate with an example. I will copy my code here. As you can see in my example, the font variant is set to small caps. This converts the text to small caps where all letters are in uppercase, but the first letter or each word is slightly larger than the first. For instance, in the example, the text appears in small case with the first letter in uppercase and the remaining letters in smaller uppercase. This is how you can use the font style and font variants property to enhance the text on your web page. Now let's talk about the font shorthand property. You can set all the font properties together using the font shorthand property. For example, you can specify the style, weight, size, and family all in one line like this italic bold 20 pixel Arial. Let me demonstrate this with an example. I will copy the code from here and paste into the example. Now you can see that my font is appearing as italic bold with a 20 pixel size and Arial font family. We have used the font style and weight, font size and font family properties all together in a single line. The text is not displayed accordingly. Now let's look at line height. By default, the line height is normal, which you can see here in the example. The space between the line is quite large. To reduce the gap, I will set the line height to 5 pixels. Now you can see the line height has reduced to 5 pixels and the gap between the lines is much smaller. If I set the line height to 1.5, it will adjust to a more standard line height and the text will appear more spaced out. Now let's talk about text alignment and decoration. Friends, to control the text more effectively, you can use the text alignment and decoration properties. This property is text align. If you want to align the text to the left, right, center or justify it, you can use the text align property. This allows you to move the text in any direction and apply decoration to it. Let's start by centering the text. As you can see, my text is aligned to the left by default. Now I will center it by writing text align center. As you can see, now the text is centered. Initially, the text was aligned to the left, but now it is centered because we applied the class. To clarify, if I set the text align directly, you can see the entire text will be centered. Now I will remove this and sub content. I'll add more text and this time the text will be centered as well. If I change the alignment to left, the text will move to the left side. By default, text is left aligned. If I change it to right, the text will align completely to the right side. As you can see, the text now moves to the right side. Lastly, let's see justify. The justify value ensures that the text is spread evenly across the line. It fills the entire width, leaving little gaps between words. This is useful for aligning text in a block or paragraph. As you can see, so justifies the text filling the available space only. So this is how we can use the text align property to align text to the left, center or justify. Now let's talk about text transform. If you want to convert your text into uppercase or lowercase, you can use the text transform property. This is quite useful for headings. Here's how you can use it. Let me show you an example. I will write text transform here and now when I apply it, you will see that my entire text has been converted to lowercase. Similarly, I can make the text uppercase. For example, if I write text transform uppercase, my entire text will be in uppercase. In this way, we can use the text transform property to change the case of the text. Now, let's talk about text decoration. If you want to add an underline below the text, an overline above or a line through in the middle, this can be done using text decoration property. Here's how it works. First, I'll apply the text decoration to my text. I will set it to underline and now you can see a line below the text. Next, I apply the text decoration over line. As you can see, a line appears above the text. Lastly, I'll use text decoration line through and now a line will appear through the middle of the text. This is how we can use the text decoration property to add different types of lines to the text. Now let's talk about text spacing and indentation. Using these properties, you can adjust the space between characters and words. First, let's look at letter spacing. I will copy the letter spacing property here. You can see that there isn't much gap between the letters. Now I'll paste the property here and you can see how it creates a space between the letters of the word. Similarly, we can use word spacing. When I set the word spacing, you can notice the gap between the words. If I remove it, you will see how it looks without extra spacing. If you want to indent the first line of a paragraph, we use the text indent property. This will move the first line a little inside. For example, if I set text indent 30 pixel, you will see that a 30 pixels margin is created at the beginning of the first line. Next, let's talk about text shadow. You can apply a shadow effect using the text shadow property, which is quite useful for adding depth to your text. Here, I will copy and paste the text shadow property into my code. As you can see, once the shadow is applied, it adds a shadow effect behind the text. I will make it a bit larger so you can see it more clearly. The shadow now appears behind the text. Now, let's discuss text overflow and white space property. Both are very useful for controlling text displays, especially when the text overflows its container. The text overflow property used when text doesn't fit inside a container and you need to decide how to display it. For example, if I set the container width to 150 pixel and any text that exceeds that width will be hidden. I have also set the overflow property to show ellipses at the end of the text. This indicates that the text is cut off. If I remove the overflow, you will see that the text extends beyond the container without ellipses. Now let's talk about white space property. This property decides how the text will be on your document or how to handle the space. So the white space behavior in different is that by default the text is for one line where the container ends and the extra spaces are ignored. So there are two or three things inside it like white space which we can keep as no web or we can keep it in pre format or we keep it in pre or I will directly tell you guys there that is this way. Right now my entire content here is okay. What do I do with it? Here I have written no rep. I remove it from here and I also remove follow etc. And here I simply show you guys when I did it. See my entire content went till there. It become completely overflow. Now I also remove that from here. Now I will also put normal wrap where and see. Now see my entire content has come in this way. It is coming evenly. Now there is no one more thing inside it which is pre. Now what is pre? Like here I have complete content of my document. Now if I want I can press enter after the line height. Then I press enter here. Then I press enter here. So what where I write in my code in this way it will appear in that way. I make it a little smaller, but here as I have given space, the line got removed in that way. Now I move it a little back here. I also move it back. I increase it a little more. So we use the mostly for poem etc. We had seen this in the same way. We also use here. So friend, this is simple. By using this, you can make your web page even more effective. If you want to know something else, you can ask in the comment. Keep smiling and happy coding. Thank you.